I wrote our rules on a paint stir stick. 2 a.m. truths in an all-night hardware store. I didn't come for screws. I came to stop guessing. At 2:11 a.m., the only hardware store within 30 miles that keeps the lights on has the morals of a decent spreadsheet. Clear columns, sane aisles, nothing dramatic unless you make it so. The forklifts breathe like trained animals. The PA whispers sales to no one. The lumber aisle smells like the kind of promise that doesn't care who's reading. I pushed a cart that squeaked only enough to be honest, and tried to let it be louder than the part of my mind that argued with empty rooms. My name is Curtis. I make product roadmaps for a living, slides that tell tomorrow where to stand and for how long. For months my wife, Rowan, and I had been living like two reliable manuals. Thorough, accessible, opened only when something malfunctioned. Our fights retired themselves. What remained was weather, dignified, cumulative, unreportable. At 12:53 she texted, "We're still loading the truck, might crash on the office couch. Don't wait up." Not a lie. A hallway. I've walked down enough hallways to know they always lead somewhere, even if that somewhere is just another hallway. The night manager wore a vest, a barcode scanner, and the expression of someone who knows where bolts belong and why people cry near the caulk. Her name tag said TASHA. When our eyes met, she gave me the nod I wanted, permission to be temporary. A sign behind her said no RETURNS after 2 a.m. in firm lettering. Below it, on a piece of painter's tape, someone had written in marker, "No trials after 2. "New policy?" I asked. "Store policy. Life policy," Tasha said. "After 2, I only fix what I can prove and show tired people where the tape lives." "I'll try not to make you prove much," I said. "You'd be surprised," she said, and went back to reconciling a palette with a scanner as if forgiveness were inventory. I walked the aisles like a tourist who didn't need souvenirs. The plumbing section performed the quiet miracle of being alphabetical. A cardboard tower of contractor bags insisted on the possibility of order. The snack rack beside the register offered the modest theology of pretzels and jerky. A radio far away attempted a love song that had decided to settle. He came in through the contractor doors with a tote bag full of rope and good intentions, Jasper. Operations lead on Rowan's team. I recognized the nonprofit logo on his hoodie and the way he looked at corners as if they were just heavy ideas. He saw me. I saw him. Neither of us pretended the forklift was louder than recognition. "Kurt," he said, lifting 2 fingers like a man trying to be small in a world that keeps mistaking competence for noise. "Couldn't sleep." "Didn't want to guess," I said. "Hardware improves the odds." He smiled with relief that wasn't triumph. "We finished the east wall," he said, "because that was the truth available. Your wife is asleep under a banner that says we build together. The banner is not a blanket, but it's auditioning. She told me to go home. I told her I'd rather go where the lights make sense." He slid a coil of caution tape onto a shelf gently, the way you put down a word that shouldn't carry this much weight. "You mind if I walk a lap I don't need?" "I mind trials after 2, I said, nodding toward the sign. "Do whatever else the store doesn't mind." We moved through aisle 5, past screws with denominations that sounded like minor deities. Somewhere a forklift beeped like a small apology. The clock above the paint counter surrendered 2 minutes without ceremony. Tasha padded by, set a basket of stir sticks on the counter as if they were ballots, and kept going. Jasper stopped near the paint shakers and looked at the wall of colors as if he were auditioning them for a role in a smaller, kinder government. "You two do rules?" he asked. "Not chores. The kind that tell you where to stand when the play's over." "We do," I said. "We used to do them like vows. Lately we do them like warranty cards." Print new ones, he said, and fished out a Sharpie that had survived many banners. He took a paint stir stick from the basket and slid it across the counter the way you hand a friend a tool you trust, before daylight talks you into pretending you remember. I wrote like the screws were watching. If a night lights you up, invite me while you're lacing your shoes. I'll come if I can. If I can't, I won't turn your light into a report. No photogenic secrets. Nothing we'd enjoy telling better without each other in the story. Touch in daylight every day. Even just a wrist at the sink, a forehead in the hallway, a shoulder while the kettle thinks it matters. Right of reserve. When the voice wants to climb, step back and read the scoreboard before you rename the game. If either of us starts wanting to be wanted somewhere else, say it while it's small, not after it has luggage. NB. Rules are tools, not weapons. Jasper read without gratting. Add one from the floor boss who saved my back, he said. Eat before you try to win. Pretzels before speeches, I said, nodding toward the snack rack. Civilization, he said, with the weariness of a man who has carried tables in the rain. My phone skittered against the cart handle and settled. Rowan, half asleep here, don't drive, breakfast. R, another bubble, come see the floor at 8, we'll pull tape together. Relief is not fireworks, it is architecture. The weight went where it belonged. Good, Jasper asked, not curious, just operational. Better, I said, she invited. We bought pretzels. Tasha scanned them with the solemnity of a priest who refuses to learn people's gossip. Mercy, she said, pushing the bag back across the counter. On the house. No trials after 2. I owe you a receipt, I said. You owe me a report at 9, she said. Tell me if the rule's set right. We ate like people who understand truce. Jasper shouldered his tote and offered his hand. The handshake had the weight of someone who knows which beams should carry what. Tell the banner it tried, he said, and left through the contractor doors like a man who believes in weather. I took the stir-stick treaty, drove home to a fridge that had been acting like a magistrate, and taped the wood under the magnet shaped like a boat we bought one summer we didn't ruin. On the back, with the Sharpie's tired courage, I drew a grid and filled the square labeled wrist because completion, when honest, doesn't wait for a parade. At 7:55, the school gym smelled like lemons and humility. Blue tape sulked across the floor in lines that had forgotten why they mattered. Rowan stood near the door with 2 coffees, and the face she wears when the next 2 hours will include repetitive labor and small victories. Her hair had agreed to be useful. She handed me the cup labeled black because mercy is muscle memory. Breakfast, she said. Hardware, I said, and offered the stir stick like a passport to a country where smaller governments make better laws. She turned it over in her hands, reading each line as if it might say something treasonous. At no trials after 2, she smiled. At no photogenic secrets, she lifted one eyebrow in approval. At wrist, she flicked her eyes toward my hand, and we did the daylight version of touch, legal, small, effective. Who deputized you? She asked. Tasha and a wall of screws, I said. Jasper seconded. She slid the stir stick into her hoodie pocket like it deserved warmth. Help me pull tape, she said. If that's not an invitation, I need new nouns. We got on our knees and started to peel. Tape lifted with grudges. We pretended not to hear complaints that didn't change outcomes. A volunteer named Bella asked whether cables preferred left-handed coils or right. Rowan said, whatever future, you will thank you for, and showed her both. Jasper arrived with a bakery box because civilization. He set it on a folding table and said, eat before speeches, and no one argued because sugar has better jurisprudence than pride. Do we make a pastry rule? Rowan asked without looking up. Only eat them before we aim for victory, I said. After that, they're apologies. Strategy, she said, and bit with the seriousness that makes rooms decide to cooperate. Work when believed in behaves. The tape remembered it was a guest. The lines agreed to mean what they were told. When a knot misbehaved, Rowan stared at it until it remembered it was line and not plot. Jasper moved through the gym like humane logistics, present, untheatrical, exact. At 9:58 people arrived who needed something true. At 10, the gym stopped pretending to be anything other than a room where people did their jobs and made each other briefly less tired. During a lull, Rowan bumped my shoulder with hers. Let's admit something while it still fits in one sentence, she said. Okay. We got polite, she said. I want to get exact. Exact is my favorite weather, I said. I pledge wrist and invitation. I pledge invitation, not subpoena, she said. When I text come, I mean stand next to me while I do the thing I chose, not rescue me from consequences. When you text come, I will arrive without a gavel. Deal, I said. Right of reserve 2, read the scoreboard before renaming the problem. No photogenic secrets, pretzels before speeches. No trials after 2. Rowan laughed, and the sound made the floor decide we meant it. She touched my wrist again, the daylight version, and said, daylight. I said daylight, and Jasper, passing with a coil of caution tape and the attitude of a good doctrine that minds its volume, said daylight. We closed with fewer mistakes than forecast and a distribution of gratitude that made sense. In the car, Rowan taped the stir stick to the dash with 2 strips of blue painter's tape, which is the staff of life. At home, we moved it to the fridge under the boat magnet, where Faith goes to learn respect. I colored a box on the grid labeled invite while lacing and missed one the next day and told the truth about why. The grid prefers honesty to completion. It doesn't grade on charm. That week we argued at 3 in the afternoon like citizens and split a donut like a treaty at 4. On Thursday, I closed my laptop at 10 because the wrist rule refuses to enforce itself. On Friday, Rowan texted, come, and I held a door for 15 minutes while a line of people who weren't me had their burdens made lighter by seriousness. And I called that love instead of martyrdom because I'm practicing naming things before the weather names them. Some nights still try to split in half. When they do, I drive to the hardware store and walk the aisles until the alphabet calms down. Tasha taps the no trials sign with her scanner and asks if the rules are holding. When I say yes with an asterisk, she raises both eyebrows like a librarian who has seen every chapter and still believes in paper. If Jasper wanders in, we compare knots and policies like men who have decided maintenance is the love language that doesn't care about applause. If you came for scandal, I owe you a worse store and better gossip. Here, what I have instead, a paint stir stick with 6 lines, a gym that forgave tape, a night manager who knows the difference between a jam and a crisis, and 2 people who decided the opposite of a secret isn't a confession, it's an invitation. The rest is upkeep. Pretzels before speeches, no trials after 2, hands steady on tape and doors, and a wrist touched every day in daylight. The exact moment a life decides to stay where it's wanted.